I'm interested in each of the different case studies and probably just a quick summary about you actually, how you chose your model for engagement. So did you think about other models and choose that one? Did you kind of fall into it? Or what was the consideration in the actual model?
From here for all of us? Oh, yeah. For us in South Australia, we've been quite deliberate about trying to try a number of models. Citizens' juries have been one that we've really seen success with, and although, like Stephen said, it's costly and it can be, and we're trying to do scale. We're trying to do different ones in different places and try and bring down the cost to be able to do as many as we can. But I suppose we've been really overt about thinking about what the outcome is that we're trying to do. So we're still doing some traditional ones online where we want people to be able to see the debate and have that discussion. And often there's phases in the consultation, so it's rarely that we just do one thing and leave it there. The cycling one, for example, then was turning into legislation, so I've got all our consultation around the legislation as well. But we're really, we're quite influenced by looking worldwide, and certainly I think I flicked it up on the slide. The Premier sort of is extolling everyone to read Daniel Jokovic's Coming to Public Judgment book, and so people are sort of being asked to think about different ways in their own area, and we're starting to organically see lots more examples.
I'll just quickly say that with our People's Panel, New Democracy were the only sort of third-party providers. I mean, there's a couple of excellent academics, and Alana McTiernan has used them, particularly in the West. But New Democracy sort of came and presented to the councillors. Lord Mayor was quite hostile. I was probably the most supportive. But at the end of the day, we didn't have the expertise internally to deliver the model. And they had a very prescribed model of, it must be confidential for the deliberative phase, it must be well facilitated, it must be 75% majority, you must give us enough time. So we insist on 5 full days. We won't give you the names and addresses of the panellists. We're not going to reuse them. It's a once-only exercise, like a jury. So we sort of bought it off the shelf and let them be very influential. And it was quite a challenge for our officers, because some people say we have a bit of a controlling culture at City of Melbourne. We're used to being in control. So actually handing the whole box and dice over, saying you run it, was a bit of a challenge for everyone. But I think that was the beauty of the model, because they were very robust, New Democracy. They knew where they were going. They insisted on their model, and their model is battle-hardened now after having done quite a few. So I just felt buying it off the shelf from a third-party provider who wasn't charging as much. They charged us 20 grand. I mean, Luca Beljononetis has sunk 5 million of his own money into this. So it's a subsidised, it's a philanthropically funded third-party provider. They don't come along very often with a model like that. So we sort of said, we'll buy that, and we're very happy users of the product.
We bought that too.
Yeah. Thanks again for raising this question. I think it refers to an important point, because quite often when we speak with public servants or politicians, they jump directly to different techniques, and they say, I want to do something with social media. I want to do something where I meet citizens personally, something like that. But first of all, you've got to ask yourself, what is the purpose of my project, and which techniques actually suit this purpose? At the time, we had the privilege to craft our own method. I'm not going to say this is the best method, because I think there's a whole array of methods out there, and each method suits different purposes, has different goals. And I really believe that this should be, well, part of the education for public servants, of course. So it is, I think it's better in Australia, but it is not part of the education for public servants in Germany, that public servants know a bit more about these different methods. We thought it is really important for us to develop a method which can be applied on a national level, but also on the local level. Most often we see that projects are successful on the local level. We've got a few projects on the state level, but on the federal level, well, it's still quite empty, I would say. I can't see that many successful projects on this level. So we've got to think about the federal level again. And so we wanted to reach out not only to the usual suspects, and then we really believe in this combination of offline events and online discussion. That's what we think is really important, and it really suits the different needs of people. Yeah.
Great, thank you for those responses. So the other question was coming from over here. Yeah, okay. Is there a microphone there? You're good to go.
Yes, I have, thank you. My name's Murray Petrie. I'm from the Global Initiative for Fiscal Transparency. I'd like to thank the three panellists very much. There's a lot of theory written in this space, and it's really exciting to hear from people who are actually running and managing and initiating these sort of exercises. My question picks up a little bit, I think, from what Dominic was just saying. It's about institutionalizing, if you like, regularizing these new approaches. How do you ensure that an exercise such as the one in Germany is not a sort of a one-off event? I think you mentioned it triggered follow-up events, but I'd be interested to hear a little more. But for all three questioners, all three presenters, what has been done to institutionalize, if you like, to try and make sure that this isn't a one-off event, or it survives a change in administration, a change in political flavour, if you like, and becomes hopefully part of the sort of the routine fabric? What has been done and what perhaps more could be done from that perspective?
Well, the Bertelsmann Foundation is a privately funded foundation, so we can't really institutionalize something, but what we did after conducting our first big project is that we redeveloped it, that we redesigned the whole project, and that now every council in Germany has the possibility to get our manual, to get access to the website. So we wanted to ensure that participation processes on the local level are not that expensive anymore. Perhaps the City of Melbourne can deal with that, but not every small council can deal with that. And that's why we developed this method in such a way that it can be used by, on a state level, but especially also on the local level. On the other hand, what I can see when I observe Germany is that also Chancellor Angela Merkel, so she's got currently a big project, so she's reaching out to citizens. It's a project called Good Living in Germany, and but it's more or less very traditional town hall meetings, what we can see, and online discussions, and these kind of town hall meetings are conducted very separately, I would say. So it comes back to my question I just raised a minute ago. How can you make sure that these new public participation processes are successful on the federal level as well? So it is important to have them on the local level, because that's where people, we heard it this morning, develop trust in government, and the national level benefits of it as well. But we've got to think beyond the local and even beyond the state level.
I think there's a fairly easy way to institutionalise it, which is to have a citizens' house, like a House of Review, like a Senate. And I think the ancient Athenians got it right with the douche, where they randomly selected citizens who would sit for a year, make decisions, and then they would be removed. So it was a limited tenure, random model. So you obviously couldn't give any binding power, but you could have a citizens' house, which is randomly selected, and which you could readily, the elected reps or someone could call in or refer, and then you could get the vote of the citizens who are randomly on that panel for that particular year, or maybe you do it by topic. I don't know. Obviously, a lot of what goes through Parliament is pretty boring, and you wouldn't want it on every one. So you'd have to have a threshold around materiality, trade-off, complexity, controversy. But I think the other key element before you get to that is you have to have a sea change in transparency. You have to have an open by default model. Local government cabinet meets in public at local government. You know, we release the agenda 5 days before the meeting. We all vote and debate in public. The officer recommendations are public. So it lends itself to a third House of Review, because you can see all the material anyway. State and federal would have to massively change their commercial in confidence, cabinet confidentiality mentality before you could roll out the model in a scaled, meaningful way at state and federal level. But I think transparency first, and then the Greeks had it right all those thousands of years ago.
And I suppose I would say for us in South Australia, there's two parts. One is we're doing it in the traditional culture change way. So we're looking at as a culture change. We're trying to put in principles and toolkits so people can use it. We're having the leadership from all of the levels. We're making it a part of everyone's performance agreement. It's completely expected that each chief executive will be completely focused on it. Cabinet talks about it. Our SMC talk about it. Speeches are given. Staff, it's part of their job. So we're doing all of the things I'd call traditional culture change. We're doing it by leadership, by all of those policy changes. However, I think if the Premier was here, he would say, we are changing it, the place that South Australia is so much that no one will let us go backwards. That's what I think our real answer is as to how we're embedding.
Great, thank you very much for those questions. I just want to finish off with a very quick question myself to the panellists. This has been a really wonderful discussion around experiments with citizen engagement, and I just wonder if each of you could give us something like a sentence which basically says what's the most positive thing that you think has come out of this, that you've seen, that inspires you most from these experiences. Stephen, do you want to start?
The quality of the advice from non-vested interests, given time to get across an issue, control of the agenda in terms of who presents to them, supplies them with data and information, and then the benefit of motivating them by putting a serious decision on the table, some serious power in their hands. So I think if you combine the serious power with the proper information flow, the time and the randomness, it's amazing what good quality, sensible, non-polluted by vested interest, rent-seeking advice you get from independent people.
I would back up all of that. And so I suppose for me personally, it is just so much more empowering to work in a public service where our job is to engage and be a different public service. To be in a transforming place where we're trying to get to there just makes coming to work a lot more fun for me.
Well, we had a lot of comments from participants. So one participant told me, when I started with this project, I wanted to change the whole political system, and now I'm realizing how difficult politics can be. So we had other participants, they joined political parties after becoming engaged, and we had one participant who said, I was interested in the project, I was interested in politics, but I found my partner for life in this project, which was nice as well.
Well, that's a very nice nice observation. Dominic, Stephen and Sandy, thanks so much for making the time to be here and share these experiences with us. I think everyone in the audience has really learned a lot from this, a lot of richness here. We could be talking all afternoon and still not get anywhere near to close to being finished with all of this, but thanks so much for this. Thank you everyone for coming along, and please join with me in thanking the panellists now.